is up, everybody? I'm Zach Pfeiffer, and this is your recap of season 45 of Survivor, episode 5. I don't want to be the worm. So this episode, I enjoyed it. It was definitely better than last week's little flop of a tribal council where we had a little quit. But, it wasn't my favorite episode. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to start it off right there. But this is 90-minute Survivor era, and I am loving what is happening. And what this episode did give me was a lot of really beautiful individual moments that I think will help continue to tell the story, but are pointing towards the biggest players of the season. And I'll get to that. So let's dive on in, y'all. We get back to Riva Beach as they've just experienced this quit from Sean, and everyone is feeling their feels. They are silent, they are feeling awkward, and they really don't know what to say because Sifu's mad. Dee over here is trying to figure out what to do, and J. Maya and Julia are just baffled. Sifu's pissed and wants to know who voted for him, and Dee flat out lies. I didn't vote for you, I voted Sean. And there's no one to negate it other than what Sean whispered to Sifu on the way out, which is, so annoying of Sean to do that. He's going to quit and then do that. Julie said it best, leave the game and slit her throats on the way out. That is really upsetting. But the funny thing is, Dee kind of convinces everyone that he must have lied on his way out, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. But for some reason, that is the only thing that they can believe. So first individual to spotlight, I think, is really Dee. She stuck to her guns to vote Sifu. She's lying about it and getting away with it. And even better, she does get away with it. J. Maya later jumps on the bomb and says, she's like, okay, we're going to convince Sifu that I did it because I'm on the bottom and that he won't have to use his idol that they assume he has, but he doesn't have it because Austin has it. And these two know, so they're like... But then, as soon as they come up with that plot, Dee's like, maybe we should vote out J. Maya. Dee is playing this game. She's making moves, and I really think you got to keep an eye out for Dee in my fantasy league. As you all know, we all choose a sole survivor, and Dee has been mine since day one. Looking good. We get over to Bello, and Bello is just talking about food. They're just talking about food. Kendra tries to eat a worm, and then she burps it up. It's really funny and great television. And we're getting a little spotlight on Brando, who's getting a little bit of a purple edit throughout this game so far. I think the highlight of Brando in this episode was the montage of Pokemon Go talk, as he is just talking and talking and talking Pokemon Go stats and tricks and all this stuff. And then Drew comes back with, I just pay a hacker to get me what I want. Brilliant. I think it really describes how they're playing the game at this point, is that Brando's just playing so earnestly and just doing what he's told to do, and Drew's like, no, I run this shit. Whew. Also, in regards to this, Brando makes a move with Drew and is like, I gotta protect myself in case we go to Tribal Council. Let's have a nerd alliance, you, me, and Emily. And Drew's like, no, I'm good. Very bold of Drew, and it just kind of sends Brando into this spiral for the rest of the episode. And then we go over here with Lulu, and we get typical Keturah commenting on Bruce's behavior. A cool thing about this part of the episode is Keturah's left alone at beach, and she decides to go idol hunt, and it doesn't really go well. I'm getting nervous because I really love Keturah, and I've been hoping that Keturah is the one that topples Bruce in this Bruce versus Keturah thing. But the last couple of episodes, it's back and forth of who we should be rooting for. I know they're trying to make it up in the air so we can choose our side and stuff, but Kendra goes looking for an idol, and then Keturah goes looking for an idol, and she very much gets caught by the entire tribe. It is not a good look. And in addition to that, there have been talks from Bruce talking about her attitude and stuff. So, and mostly her attitude towards him. But there is this energy I think that Keturah is going off, that she's very focused and lasered in, and that's kind of I think what Bruce is hopping on is this energy that hopefully he's hopefully they won't look at me, they'll look at her. So it's going back and forth, but her getting caught and Caleb being girl, what are you doing? It's not the best look. I'm just gonna say that it's not the best look. And also let's talk about Jake. Another person to be looking out for. Jake. I'm going two ways here. This is the second time he's passed out, and it's really scary. Because his response to this one is very emotional. And we get his backstory too, which is really beautiful. It's so powerful to hear how he's overcome his weight issues and has really kind of shaped his life for the better, partially to come onto the show. But his narrative here is he has fallen down twice now and passed out, and he starts being like, I really don't want to be pulled from the game. I really don't want to be pulled from the game. And the amount that he's fixating on that partially makes me think that maybe we're not seeing like medical coming in to like take a look at him if he does faint. Like, I don't know how often people faint in Survivor, but I feel like that does merit some medical attention. But we haven't seen it either time. He's fallen, he's kind of like gotten back up and has moved on. So whether he's declined medical assistance or what, we haven't seen it. But him talking so frenetically about like potentially getting pulled medically for the game makes me think that maybe he's been talked to by the medical team. Like maybe he has had that situation where someone has been like, hey bro, like we're keeping an eye on this, but like we gotta warn you, like if this continues, we might have to pull you. I think that's might be what's happening here. But the story from home is really beautiful. And we got a similar one from Dee talking about her family and how they struggled to come to this country and how Dee is so fortunate for the opportunity to have her immigrant parents come here and risk everything to give her a better life. Two really beautiful, uplifting stories. And I'm excited because Dee and Jake are both on my team. But also, like, I think we'll get a couple more. Sifu's like emotional family, like whatever, his backstory was a deleted scene from this episode, and that is worrisome because if you like have this big like story, like this is who I am, this is what I'm playing, this is like why I'm here, and it gets cut from the episode, is not the best look for your game, in my opinion. I think that's like really much it. The big thing that we get into before like the challenge is like Emily's like, I don't know which way to go. Do I go with Reba or do I go with original Bello? So, we go to the challenge. The challenge is played and Reba wins. And they get some fish, which is really great. They got some food. And Lulu gets some fish too. And the tribe that was so desperately hungering for food, the girl that like wanted to eat a worm, loses and don't get any fish. And are sent to tribal council. Everyone is very happy. But there's a twist, and it's another journey, which is very exciting and so good for them to do it right after a nice swapperoo to see how, everyone's playing the game. And so Reba winning gets to select a member from each tribe and one from their tribe to go. It looks like J. Maya and Dee do rock, paper, scissors, and J. Maya wins. And they select Kelly, and they select Austin. And like, there's like this weird remark about like, so there's no Reba and Lulu, so they had to choose somebody to go. But there are two Reba here, and they chose Austin to go. So like, and they're like, we know him, and like blah blah blah, and we'll get the tea, which is like, I don't think a good move for J. Maya. Partially because it's like kind of painting the flag of like, I'm Reba strong, and it also like kind of closes the door to these other Bello members to be like, oh, I'll work with them, or even like Caleb and Emily who are like, I haven't really met you yet. So that was a weird call out, and it's focused in on the episode. But they go off on the journey. They have to hike up a mountain, and they kind of like act like it's like some incredible feat. We don't get to see much of it, so maybe the mountain was huge, but they're like, it was the most exhausting thing I've ever done. And they get up there, and they have a choice. They can either all get these amulets that we saw in 42, or they can choose some sandwiches. And Austin's like, not sandwiches, duh. And it's mostly because it's starving, one. And also he has so much shit up his sleeve. Like, he doesn't need another little trinket in his pocket. It'd be nice, but he doesn't need it. And he also has good numbers. Like, he doesn't need, like, these other two people to, like, kind of conflict with his game. But the other two, however, Kelly and J. Maya are like, well, we want the amulets, and it's majority rule. So basically they all come around and we're like, okay, we'll get the amulets, and we're gonna like work together until the final 7, and then we'll start picking each other off, which is like, I don't think that's ever how this advantage is ever gonna work in this game. So they all get this. If all 3 are played together, it's an extra vote. If 2 of them are played together, it is a steal a vote. And if there's only 1 left in the game, it's a full-blown idol. I think it was playable until final 6, which is cool because it's not like the immunity idol that goes to final 5 degrees here. So they go back, and Austin, I think, does a really good job of like lying to the tribe about what he got. He was like, yeah, so it was like sandwiches or this like risk challenge where you had to like get these coconuts up this hill, and it was like exhausting, and I was like miserable, and we didn't get it, so it was like some sort of reward, but we just like didn't win, the 3 of us, which is like a great lie, and I think everyone bought it. But I'm curious about like if they came up with a plan, we're gonna spew that thing to everyone so that when they merge, that they will compare stories, as we saw with Bruce and Katora talking about that journey. So if Kelly was smart, she would have picked up on that and like kind of ran with that story for the three of them to tell back at camp, so that like, you know, at least they have an alibi. And so Austin jumps back in and is like, what did I miss? Meanwhile, all that was happening, Brando is like trying to like make some moves and like really come out on top, and was basically like, Drew, I'll vote Kendra out. And it's just like, that was easy. And then they like are like speed dating, and then Emily and Brando talk, and then Emily's like, Drew said you wanted to vote out Kendra? And Brando's like, oh my god, and he's making it sound like I threw that idea out. Oh, he's like fishy. And it almost works. It almost works. And even going into tribal council, it's not clear which way Emily's gonna go, and I think it's partially due to the edit, you know? But financial analyst Emily Flippin analyzes for a living, as we saw in tribal council. And something that wasn't seen was apparently Kendra did kind of like throw Brando under the bus, talking about how close Brando and Kelly were and how they're playing the middle game. So I think it was very apparent that Brando and Kendra were not as close and tight as Drew and Austin were, and I think Emily smelled that. I think she was like, okay, well, if I'm talking long, this is how I enter the merge. This is like my end, like middle to end game. I need the numbers. I need people to be around me. Which way do I go? Do I go with the two stronger, more like threatening people, or the two people that honestly, it could be any of them? So obviously she's gonna go with the big guys that are like meat shields for the rest of the season. I think that's a good freaking move for Emily. I think she has secured her spot to a late game. I think she's top 6 at least. But yeah, so all that said and done, they go to tribal council. It's pretty par for the course, except I think the big question that we had going into this was which advantages were Drew and Austin going to use? Was Drew going to play safety without power? Was Austin going to sacrifice his vote? Or was he going to use his goodwill advantage vote and still sacrifice the vote for his idol? And it was the last one. He played the goodwill advantage so that he could vote and still upgrade his idol to, I think, merge, which is so funny that it's like tomorrow, like next week. Mergatory's next week, not the merge. So I guess like Austin could still probably use that idol if he has to go, but he has to sacrifice a vote, he has to bank one more vote before it becomes a full-blown idol. And at this point, that is the only one in the game. I don't know what is going on at the Bello Beach, but that one was never found. So maybe we'll get that later, but we're about to join forces, so we're probably going to be like, we're going to earn the merge. So everyone's going to be together, but then there's going to be split into 2 groups by random, and like, and 13, so maybe we'll have a twist. I think we'll get an exiled into... It's this, where you have the 6 versus 6 in the challenge, and the person that draws the odd color gets to choose which tribe they think is going to win, and if they're right, then they also win. And if they lose, then they are vulnerable. So next week we'll either have a 6 or 7 person tribal council, and they will vote it out. I have no idea how this breakdown is going to work. Like, I don't even know really where to start talking about who could possibly go home next week. But yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Let's finish the episode. They all vote. It's pretty clear. It's 2 for Drew and 3 for Brando. And Kendra is just gobsmacked. She is dumbfounded that Emily could possibly have lied to her. My favorite part of Kendra this episode was her hissing. Great moment. But that sends Brando to the jury, and it's our first non-Lulu member. Oh my god, the Lulus are gonna like see him and be like, oh my god, it's not Caleb or Emily. That is amazing. Ooh. But yeah, that was the episode, and next week is Mergatory. If you're unfamiliar with the new era, you do not simply just merge. You have to earn your way into the merge, y'all. And with 13 people still in play, this is gonna be a crazy tribal council. Depending on how the random divide is, this is when like a huge threat in the game could be eliminated. This could be an easy elimination of like, if it's like for Reba and literally anybody else, then that person probably is going. It's going to be very chaotic. I feel like we might see a couple more little knickknacks be pulled. If there is a shot in the dark played, this is probably the episode. But going into it, the biggest threats, and I think the biggest people that we got to look out for, obviously, let's start over here on Reba. I think Sifu is obviously still a big threat. If Reba has the numbers, or if they don't, I think it's an easy person to like kind of throw under the bus. I think Julie and Dee are pretty safe. I don't think they are coming across as like leaders of any sort. I think that's going to be these boys over here. And J Mai is like, I think relatively safe as well. So I think if of this tribe right now, Sifu, with Lulu, ooh, this is like the meaty episode, meaty thing. You have Bruce, who's been called out from day one and finally is going to be on the same beach as Emily. Cannot wait to see what happens there. Could be Katura, as they all are like, you know, Bruce can swing the numbers against Katura. Could be Jake, who's been seen as like a liability potentially if he keeps like hurting himself and fainting. Caleb has been on the Reba tribe, has met all of these Bello now, is probably the most integrated individual, which makes him a huge threat. Could be Kelly for playing the middle road. Like literally any of these people, but if I had to say one of them, my money would be on Bruce. I think that would be a smart move for people because I think it would be really easy for Bruce to make a sprint towards the end if they can't get him in these next couple votes. And then over here, you know, the target was firmly on Drew, but I think he has a safety without power, and if he doesn't have the numbers, I don't think he'll be stupid enough not to play that. So I don't think Drew will be going next. Austin has an idol that he could use or could not use, so I also think he's pretty safe. Emily, I'm worried about. She has like stirred the pot a little bit. She does have Caleb, but she doesn't really have, other than these two, like who are her numbers? Like, unless these two are like, we got her, then she's good, but worried about that. Kendra, I'm worried about. Kendra doesn't really have any numbers anymore. She wasn't really close with the boys over here. She has Kelly and Katura. It'd be nice to see them reunite, but I think that like, it was clear that that girl alliance was solid at start, but it was never really like cemented. So I think Kelly is going to make a decision there. So I really do think that Kendra is probably on the bottom too. So Sifu, I think Bruce, I think Kendra. Who is going next week? Oh, well, if I just had to randomly guess, I'm going to go with, I think they'll do a threat. And I don't think it will be a Lulu because they won't. It'll be a Bella versus Reba war. So, I think I'm gonna say Bruce. I think Bruce is going next week. Who knows, that might change. But yeah, I feel like I'm confident with that one, and I think it's a smart move, and I think they should just do it, especially because he's being mean to people. Well, that was the episode, y'all. I hope you enjoyed the recap, and I can't wait for Murdatory. It's gonna be bloody as hell. Mwah.